If The Curse of the Black Pearl was a swashbuckling adventure, Dead Man's Chest is that adventure xeroxed, bedazzled, and then run through a funhouse mirror. Once again, we have Jack Sparrow owing a debt to a supernatural sea captain, Will and Elizabeth's relationship in peril, and more double crosses than a tic-tac-toe tournament. The movie introduces Davy Jones, who's like the first film's cursed pirates, but with more calamari. There's another cursed ship, another quest for a magical MacGuffin, this time a chest instead of coins, and even another climactic sea battle. Jack even gets eaten by a monster at the end, which is basically a larger-scale version of him being stranded on the island in the first movie. It's like the writers took the script for the first movie, put it in a blender with a bunch of squid ink, and hit puree. The result is familiar yet confusing, like déjà vu during an acid trip. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. This is the Karate Kid approach to sequels. This time, instead of Daniel-san facing bullies in California, he faces bullies in Okinawa. It's like the writers threw darts at a map and decided, yep, that's where the karate will happen next. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel travel to Okinawa for a family emergency, where they encounter Miyagi's old rival and his nephew, who's basically the Japanese version of Johnny from the first movie. Daniel falls for a local girl, of course, gets into trouble with a local tough guy, shocking, and has to use his karate skills to save the day, who would have guessed? The movie even recycles the Daniel learns a special technique trope, this time with the drum technique instead of the crane kick. It's like watching a foreign remake of the original film, but everyone speaks English and Ralph Macchio still can't grow a convincing mustache. Jurassic World is less a sequel and more a greatest hits album of the original Jurassic Park, but with more CGI and less Jeff Goldblum, a tragedy in itself. The movie's tagline might as well have been, this time, we've really learned our lesson about playing God. Oh wait, no we haven't. Once again, we have a fully operational dinosaur theme park, precocious kids in peril, and adults making monumentally stupid decisions. We also have a genetically modified super dino called Indominus Rex, which is basically a T-Rex with a bad attitude. Chris Pratt's character is like a mix of Dr. Grant and the Game Warden from the first film, with added I can train raptors flavor. The movie even recreates iconic scenes from the original, like the kitchen scene, now a gift shop, and the T-Rex versus bigger predator showdown. It's like listening a DJ that's added dubstep to all your favorite classic rock songs with mixed results. 5 years after saving New York from Gozer and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, our heroes are right back where they started? Yep, Ghostbusters II begins with the team disbanded and discredited, as if the entire city collectively decided to gaslight themselves about the events of the first movie. The sequel follows a suspiciously similar pattern. The team gets back together, faces skepticism from the authorities, and eventually saves New York from a supernatural threat. This time, instead of a Sumerian god, it's a 16th century tyrant living in a painting. Because art criticism wasn't terrifying enough already. They even recycle the possession angle, with Dana's baby replacing her refrigerator as the portal to the spirit world. The climax involves the Ghostbusters rallying New Yorkers to think positive thoughts to defeat the baddie, which is basically the Care Bears with proton packs. It's a fun ride, but like reheated pizza, it's just not quite as satisfying as the first time around. Jaws 2 proves that lightning can strike twice, or in this case, the same shark can terrorize the same town twice. Because apparently, Amity Island is to great white sharks what all-you-can-eat buffets are to tourists. Police Chief Brody is back, convinced another shark is in town, but no one believes him. It's like a maritime version of The Boy Who Cried Wolf, except the wolf is a several-ton eating machine. The movie follows the same structure as the original. Denial, terror, failed attempts to kill the shark, and finally, a showdown at sea. This time, instead of grizzled sailors, it's a bunch of teenagers on sailboats. The film even tries to recreate iconic moments from the original, like the underwater point-of-view shots and the climactic explosion. It's like watching a cover band try to recreate Stairway to Heaven. It hits the notes, but the magic just isn't there. Speed was about a bus that couldn't slow down. Speed 2 is about a cruise ship that can't slow down. It's like the writers looked at the first movie and thought, what if we did the same thing, but slower and wetter? They replaced Keanu Reeves with Jason Patric, a severe downgrade, kept Sandra Bullock, who probably wishes she hadn't, and set it on a cruise ship. The villain this time is a computer genius played by Willem Dafoe, sporting a haircut that's scarier than his plan to crash the ship into an oil tanker. The movie tries to recreate the tension of the original, but forgets that a massive cruise ship moving slightly faster than normal isn't quite as thrilling as a bus jumping over a 50-foot gap in the freeway. It's like watching a sloth try to recreate Usain Bolt's 100-meter dash. Sure, it's moving, but the excitement is somewhat diminished. The first, Expendables, was a nostalgic throwback to 80s action flicks, stuffed with more aging action stars than a retirement home for stuntmen. The Expendables II said, "Hey, what if we just add more explosions and Chuck Norris?" The plot, much like Sylvester Stallone's diction, is largely incomprehensible but involves the team on another mission that goes awry. There's a bad guy, this time played by Jean-Claude Van Damme, because why not? A bunch of shooting, some macho posturing, and more one-liners than you can shake a grenade launcher at. It's less a sequel and more a reminder that Hollywood's action heroes get older, but somehow their biceps stay the same size. The movie even throws in a pencil-thin plot about avenging a fallen comrade, just like the first one. It's comfort food for action junkies, with all the nutritional value of a deep-fried Twinkie. In Taken, Liam Neeson's Brian Mills used his very particular set of skills to rescue his daughter from Albanian sex traffickers. In Taken 2, the writers used their very particular set of copy-paste skills to basically remake the first movie. This time, it's Brian and his ex-wife who get taken by the vengeful father of one of the traffickers from the first film. Because apparently, Albanian criminals have excellent family values. The movie follows the same beats as the original, with Brian using his CIA skills to guide his daughter to his rescue. It's like watching your dad try to recreate his glory days on the high school football field. Familiar, slightly embarrassing, but you can't look away. The film even recycles the famous phone speech, but this time Brian's telling his daughter how to throw grenades in Istanbul. Because nothing says responsible parenting like turning your teenager into an urban artillery expert. If you thought the McAllisters had learned their lesson about keeping track of their children, think again. This sequel proves that the family's collective memory is shorter than Kevin's screen time with his parents. This time, instead of being left behind, Kevin boards the wrong plane and ends up in New York City. Because apparently, airport security in the 90s was as effective as a chocolate teapot. Kevin once again lives it up on his own, checks into a swanky hotel, the Plaza no less, and encounters the same two burglars from the first movie who decide to have another go. Apparently having learned nothing from their previous encounter with this pint-sized psychopath. He sets up elaborate traps in a relative's townhouse, turning it into a funhouse of pain that would make Jigsaw proud. The film even recycles gags, like Kevin's aftershave scream and his use of gangster movie dialogue to fool adults. It's basically the first movie with a bigger budget, more pigeons, and a Donald Trump cameo. This time, the wolf pack heads to Thailand for Stu's wedding. The sequel follows the exact same structure as the original, down to the missing person. This time it's Stu's future brother-in-law, the body modification, in this case, a Mike Tyson tattoo, and even another encounter with a crime lord, because one wasn't enough. They even throw in a monkey, which is basically the animal kingdom's equivalent of Zach Galifianakis. The jokes are recycled faster than bottles at a frat party, and the outrageousness dial is cranked up to, is this even legal? It's as if the writers said, remember that thing that made you laugh? Let's do it again, but this time, let's set it on fire and push it off a cliff. In the end, The Hangover Part II is like that friend who keeps telling the same story at parties, but each time it gets louder and less believable.